Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast where I bring the best and the brightest from the business, marketing, and personal growth to help you harness your inner tenacity and drive your career forward. Folks, my guest today on the podcast is Neal Tricarico, co-founder of the Endurant Movement and the Endurant Show, mission-driven platforms transforming grief into purpose through community and storytelling. After losing his son, Anthony, to suicide, Neal now channels decades of leadership and coaching into advocacy for mental health, suicide prevention, and neurodiversity. With a deep love and lived empathy, Neal leads with vision, vulnerability, ensuring no one walks through life alone. This is going to be heavy, folks. Hang with me. Let's do this. Neal, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Adam. Really grateful to be here. It's an honor.
And I'm grateful to have you. And today we're recording this. It's the 7th anniversary of the show. And as I said before, the show is all about sharing my guests' stories and shining a light on important causes. And there's none more important that we're about to talk about today. So guys, buckle up. This is going to be a heavy one. I'm going to get emotional here. Neal's going to get emotional here. And that's what this shit is all about. Men being open and vulnerable and talking about real life stuff. So, Neal, before we talk about Endurant or leadership, how are you showing up today as a father, as a human, as Neal?
Yeah, that's a great question out of the gate, Adam. I'm showing up as best I can with the loss of our son Anthony 18 months ago. It's as if life has started over. So everything looks and seems familiar and recognizable, but there's nothing familiar about my life before. However, there's a deep sense of presence. So seemingly more aware and present in my relationship with my wife and my daughter, Belina. And also a big word for me in this chapter of my life is grace. Letting go of pressure and a lot of performance pressure that I used to put on myself.
There's so much to unpack there. And I shared with you, and my audience knows this. I just went through my journey with cancer, and by no means comparing it to what you went through, but comparing it to the silver linings that come out of something like this. And silver linings is such a, you know what I'm saying here? Like, how do you find positive through such a tragic situation? And I found so many of these moments myself where I found deep moments of awareness, self-awareness that I never had. And I thought I was self-aware, but I wasn't as self-aware as I am now. But the real one you talked about is giving yourself grace, giving yourself the moment to breathe. Understand that we're human and we're fallible and we have emotions, and being vulnerable to that is really like, it's a tough pill to swallow, and nobody ever should go through anything like this. And you said that being Ant's dad taught you to love beyond the moment. Mm-hmm. What does that mean to you now and in practice and not just words?
Great question. And there's so much I want to unpack about what you said there, but loving beyond the moment is such an important piece for me, because I think that that's what really defined Ant and his legacy here, especially as we've gotten to know his friends so much deeper in the last 18 months and how they've kept in touch with us, and understanding that his love for them and others transcended just moments. It was a deep sense of care and connection and heartfelt. Some of his friends described it as feelings they've never felt before on such a deep level, that feeling that love is still there, even when you might not be speaking about it. And if you don't mind, man, I would like to unpack a couple things you said there. I mean, first, I want to acknowledge you. It's a big deal to make it to remission in cancer. And a couple things that I've learned in this journey that you've shared. Grief is grief, right? So yes, losing a child in this way to suicide, especially after 2 years of us all working so hard to save his life, is every bit a parent's worst nightmare. It really, really is. And as I've come to understand, what humans are facing is very real for them. So another thing that I've really discovered in this is to let go of the word compare. When you were going through, I don't know how it felt for you, but my hallucination is when you were going through your journey with cancer, I couldn't imagine the fear and scared and what you're going through. And for you, I suspect that is as real as what I've gone through. And one thing I've come to learn as I've met other dads and families on my grief journey is I won't share with you because it will get super emotional, but there are stories that are much harder. And, you know, even people losing homes like they did in Los
Yeah.
Angeles to fire. So grief is grief. And one of the gifts that you've shared, silver lining is a tough word, but that's what really post-traumatic growth is all about, is transcending suffering and being stuck and just being a little bit north of suffering, so that heart remains open and there's the possibility to unlock the depth and expression of joy and love and capacity that's possible when you've gone through an initiation like this. And I imagine you feel those greater senses as well.
Yeah, 100% too. And there's something else I've talked about with my therapist is this for me, is this, and when I talk about the expression imposter syndrome in business, I actually am a naysayer of that. For me, when it comes to business imposter syndrome, I know for me, I'm meant to be in the rooms and the places I'm meant to be. But when I talk about cancer imposter syndrome, this is the way I feel about it. Yes, I went through my journey. Yes, I went through everything, but I have Hodgkin's lymphoma. Yes, it's deadly, but I have a 95% cure rate. I was at Memorial Sloan Kettering. I was with the best care in the entire world. I was going to be okay. So when I sat there in the waiting room and I saw other people who I knew were not going to make it, you could just tell. You could tell that it was not looking good for them. I felt like I got off easy. And I talked this through with my therapist, and I talked it through with another close mentor, and they said something very similar in a combined set of words was, this was your journey. This is you. You have the receipts. Don't compare it to anybody else's. That's not going to do you any good. You have to be in that moment, and you have to learn from it. And grief, you need time to grieve. And it's been a rough year for us too. We lost my brother-in-law a couple of years ago. His sudden heart attack, and like life just happens, and you can't control it. And like once you let go of the things you can't control, but in your case, I can't even imagine the guilt and what goes through your head of thinking what you couldn't and can't control. How do you even like compartmentalize that so you can still carry on every single day and still function as a father? You still have a beautiful daughter. You still have an amazing wife. You have a family. You have a business. And now, how do you compartmentalize so you could take Anthony's legacy and make him proud? That was a lot. I'm sorry.
There's a lot in there. And we'll dive right into it. And I really appreciate you sharing about the imposter syndrome as a cancer survivor. That's a powerful piece, because so many are lost, and to survive in the way you have and to have shared what you did really struck me. And what I took from what you were sharing is this sense that I felt early on. Well, it was actually when my dear friend and mentor Tony Robbins reached out to me, is this sense of a call to something greater. So you could stay in that space of victimhood or imposter syndrome, but you've sensed and answered the call to something greater. And I acknowledge you for that. And it's a powerful piece that you've shared that's really helped me and reminded me. Getting back to what you were sharing, it's interesting. I've been thinking about it. The last few weeks have been a tough stretch, because on one hand, it seems like things are getting easier, and the rawness of the loss is less intense. And in many ways, it's harder than it's ever been. I find it unbelievable that my son is not here. And I'm in a moment where I've lost that sense of acceptance. Like I'm just being raw and real with you. You know, as we sit here Wednesday morning, I don't accept it. This is totally unbelievable. And I think, as a long way of answering your question, that's how I navigate it, because this journey, there's no end. I'm never going to get over this. But the beauty and possibility is this word "and," that I can carry this weight, this hole in my heart, this bruise, and Anthony's legacy in my heart. And I can simultaneously feel joy, love, connection. You know, sharing with you what's happened is, I've been blessed for, some 50 years, not facing too much adversity. My parents separated for a couple of years in high school. I lost my best friend to cancer in my 30s, but 49 and a half years of nothing. But I'm someone who just loves life. I want to squeeze all the joy, love, life possible out of something. But my baseline for pain, is here. And, this experience cracked that wide open. And so it's created this broad range of emotion, the trauma and pain that is indescribable that I shared earlier, that's everybody's worst nightmare, is also offset by deep levels of love, connection, and joy. So my strategy, or how I'm approaching, is both can be true. And when I'm feeling sad and missing Anthony, I sit with that. And when I'm feeling joy, I'm grateful for that. You said something about how do you show up as a father? Man, it is hard. It's the father part is the hardest piece, because our daughter is so young at 16, and I feel like still I'm thinking as opposed to being. And then I think the first part of what you asked about the guilt, that was a really tough one. There are many things I could think back upon that I wish I had done differently, and I am so frustrated and regret to have learned the things that I have since Anthony's passing. For me, what helped me the most is immersion. So I went to, again, I shared that Tony Robbins is a friend of mine. I went to Unleash the Power Within and Date with Destiny. And for me, that immersive experience of breaking through and accepting the story, but then letting go of it to create a new story, is really what keeps that regret at bay. And then the last thing I would share about that, I'm so blessed when we were making the difficult decision. So Anthony survived for about 9 weeks with significant brain injury, and we had to make the easiest and most difficult decision of our life to let him go. And the doctor shared with me, she asked my wife and I, is all the decisions you made in Anthony's life, were they made out of love? And we said they were. And she said, do you feel too that this decision is made out of love to set him free, so where he can be at peace? And I think more than anything, that's what helps me, is that, I wish there were some things I could have done, but all these decisions were made out of love. That, coupled with this call to something greater and evidence that lives have been saved through the work my wife and I are doing, it's that. And again, I carry that regret sometimes, and but also the love and life-saving possibility that's happening.
If you could go back and say in your heart, which you just did, that every decision was made out of love, it's not going to change anything. You're not going to be able to go back, but at least it'll hopefully help a little bit to heal with that. But the other big piece I took away from it, and there's a kudos to you, you started and have a baseline of love and gratitude for life and appreciation. I can't even imagine if you were in the opposite end of that spectrum, right? If you came into this, you'd be in much worse shape than you are now. And the fact that you have the fortitude to heal and find those channels through Tony Robbins and other methods, and to honor your son's legacy, that's how you're paying it forward, and that's how you're healing. So if you're open to it, can you share with us the days and weeks after Anthony's passing? What were those like? And I don't want the details, but the internal experience of that loss.
Yeah, a great question. And I think our situation is unique in so much as when Anthony took his life, I shared earlier, he survived. And he was down for about a half an hour, but a passerby found him. First responders responded, revived him. And we had this 9 weeks of hospitalization. And my wife and I talk about this all the time. Our belief is, had he passed, completed that evening, this would be potentially an entirely different situation. So what I think was most meaningful are those 9 weeks journey that my wife and daughter and I lived at the Ronald McDonald House across the street from Children's Hospital, almost immediately the love and community we felt from our vast community. I had no idea the outpouring of love. Like I shared, Tony Robbins reached out a couple days into it, and he shared with my wife and me, said, I know this is really, really hard, and your focus must be on saving Anthony's life. But if you keep your heart and your eyes wide open, you're being called to something greater, but you've got to keep your chin up. You've got to look and you've got to experience. And then the next day, a client reached out and asked if she could host a All Faiths Welcome prayer circle for us. And 75 people, most of whom we didn't know, showed up for this Zoom. And we were in the ICU with Anthony, and we could feel the love. We could feel it was miraculous. And then each week thereafter, for 9 weeks, a new person volunteered to lead these All Faiths Welcome prayer circles. And a couple magical things happened. Anthony had miraculous recovery for some period of time, but also all this polarization, all these political differences, all these religious differences, they just went away. So whether someone shared that, Jesus died on the cross so that Anthony could, in the Zohar, Anthony is taken care of because of. In Judaism, the belief is that. In our non-belief tradition, we think this. In Buddhism, we think that. But for my wife, for my daughter, me, everyone, the receipt was pure love and light. And we still feel that, this sense of love and care from far and wide. And so, that more than anything, that community, that love, like magically lifted us up. And it was as if someone was under my armpits here so it could just walk and step forward.
Two words I want to dig into. The first one is faith and the power of it. And faith is not religious. Faith is a power in a higher being. Faith is believing in optimism. Faith is optimism. And the other word is community. And when I first got diagnosed, and I can't believe this, in 6 days, it'll be 1 year, like the outpouring, like, when you go through something like this, who your real friends are. And by friends, I'm including family, because not all family are friends. You know who your friends are. You know who shows up. Those are your people. And that's your tribe. And I'm blessed, and you are blessed to have such strong, but there's so many other people out there that don't have tribes, that haven't built tribes for whatever freaking reasons, whatever on earth, they don't have it. And we are blessed that we have those people in our lives to show up when we need them. No questions asked. They're just there selflessly for you. So grief often comes with both devastation and awakening.
Yes.
What truths surface for you that you haven't seen clearly before this?
Oh my gosh. I think the easiest way to say it is, my life and career beforehand was so performative based. I'm a grounded, caring, loving guy. I meditate. I've been blessed.
Let's level for a second. What's the career? I didn't even get into. I suck at podcasts. What the hell do you do for a living? Jeez, that's what I do. And I wasn't even getting in there. Let's level set for everyone out there. What's the day job, Neal? What's the day job?
Okay, so that, but I want to be sure that
answer that.
We come back to that community aspect. So in my previous life, I came up in sales.
Right.
I was the top salesperson wherever I went, but I was a reluctant salesperson. I came up in sales late 90s, early 2000s. So it was a lot of coffee for closers, Glenn Gary, Glenn Ross.
Still my dog. Yep.
I managed to succeed, not following the script, not doing those things, but like ringing those gongs and chest bumping. It always made me feel reluctant until I had an opportunity when we came down here to San Diego to work with Deepak Chopra, who I had no idea about, and become his director and vice president of sales, and learn how to take a sales profession and work in a place and a space that impacts and improves people's lives. And then from there, I was fortunate enough to be introduced by him to Tony Robbins. And I worked, with Tony on his executive team from 08 to 012 and 16 to 20. And in between, I'd been doing my own work and continue to do coaching, executive leadership. But it's fascinating. A couple of years before all this, I was starting to share with Anthony, that I was really feeling like, gosh, this is 2 decades. I really want to do more purposeful work, more meaningful work. And I was starting to explore that as 50 was coming up. And here we are doing the most purposeful and meaningful and life-saving work. Unfortunately, at a tremendous cost. And so be it, because lives are at stake and being saved.
Let's get back to community. I want to get you back onto that.
Thank you. Where was I going with that? Just give me just a quick sec. Oh yeah. So I don't know if you're finding this, but in this call to something greater, yes, I've understood who my true friends are. And, many of them leaned in even deep and even more with us. And sadly, some who we might have expected would be there for us in the most meaningful ways maybe weren't. But I've also come to understand it's so big, it's so unimaginable that just may not be possible. We're all at different levels of consciousness and also at different levels in my life. But one thing I've noticed, and again, this is because the heart is wide open and the eyes are wide open. And when they are, new mentors, new cohorts, new friends on the journey, old friends showing up in different ways. So I have friends that I've known for my entire life. And then like we met the founder of Challenge Athletes Foundation yesterday. And oh my gosh, this is a new friend and mentor. So there's a number of people that I never knew before this that have shown up in the most meaningful ways that my wife and I have the most magical relationships with.
All right, I'm going to go off script here because it's something that's really interesting. In the beginning, it was a little hard for me, and maybe I use this as a crutch, maybe I use this as a release, where there was certain people in my life that didn't show up when I was going through this that I would have expected to, that I was upset with. But I learned to release it. And I also learned through the journey to not hold it against them and honor my relationship with them before this. And maybe there was something, instead of being cynical, that they quote unquote don't care, that there's just maybe something else going on. Maybe they experienced a similar loss. Maybe they know someone who went through cancer. Maybe they have a loss of cancer. And for whatever reason, they don't want to be as involved as possible. I needed to let that go. And once I was able to unlock this, like, I called it a dirty part of me, like this dirty feelings, these dirty feelings of anger. And maybe I was using it as an outlet for my pain and what I was going through, because I put on a really strong face during treatment. And I'm actually proud as fuck as myself, as like how I held myself. It was very unlike me. But and I say this all the time, and I want to talk about it, but there's an expression that I think I coined, and I'm gonna coin this one. You don't know how strong you are until you need to be. You don't know how strong you are until you need to be. It's like, shit, if I get into a fist fight in the alley, am I going to be able to hold my own? You don't know. You don't know until you're in that moment. But going back to what I said before, did you, am I the only one that feels that way? Like there were certain people that you expected to show up that didn't? Is that a natural feeling?
I think I'm going to answer it maybe in an unexpected way and say, like, I really don't know. Because what you were going through, you had to make a decision to show up with a mindset in a certain way that was really critical, prognosis and percentages aside. I mean, if you didn't show up in that way, it's likely that the turnout would be different. So that mindset and that strength is critical for your survival.
Mental is a big part of healing, going through anything. If the body and mind are connected, I learned that big time during this process.
Yeah. And so I see it in my mother too. Sadly, she broke her femur a few weeks ago, and her mindset is so strong to rehabilitate and get back to where she was. And that's a decision that one makes to take care of themselves. My experience, and it is so profound. And I'll just share something with you because I'm really trying to figure out how to unlock it so people don't necessarily have to go through the initiation I went through. But there was no thinking or deciding. The only thing that mattered in those moments, in those 9 weeks, was saving Anthony's life. And so that's all I thought about. But the strength, if you will, came from what I was sharing about earlier. I was down on the mat, like not only down on the mat, it was as if there was a unimaginable weight keeping me pressed on the mat. And again, somehow through that love and that connection from people far and wide, even though I couldn't speak to them other than when we did those prayer circles, because I was in it, I felt this strength.
It's real.
That I didn't know where it was coming from. I would have preferred to be in the corner in the fetal position, suffering, as I've seen so many since then. And that's what breaks my heart, and that's what pulls me on my journey. So my just being fully transparent, there was no like decision.
There wasn't time for that for you. I'm not comparing. And I want to focus on the energy here. I'm the energy. Huge. I am my hippy dippy side. I'm a receiver of energy. I tilt much more towards receiving energy, and I feel energy. I'm a barometer for energy. And even I'll give you one even small example. It was so crazy. We were in Hawaii over Christmas for my daughter's bat mitzvah trip, and we're in Maui, and we're on this remote black sand beach, not the touristy one that everyone goes to. We were on a very remote one, and we're standing there. And our driver and my wife and my kids were like further down the beach. And I look over behind me, opposite of the beach, and there's these rock formation. And I'm like, what is this? And all I could feel was this pull, this energy. And I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. And it was it was a burial ground. It was an ancient burial ground with a rock formation on it. And I've never, ever, ever felt anything as strong in my life. And it pulled me physically towards it. Like I was in Ghostbusters or something. Like it pulled me through it. And I felt this energy. And every time I moved back and forth from it, it was palatable. I had my wife come over. She didn't feel any of that. And I said to, I said to my buddy, Ross, I'm like, I explained it. And he's like, you're a giver, but you don't know it. And when you go through something like this, you never know where that energy is going to come from. You don't know who it's going to come from. It comes from the most unexpected places, the unexpected people. But life gives you what you need in that moment. And those people in that moment that show up, and you have to cherish and honor them to get you through moments, shit like this, right? Like life-changing moments. So I want to shift back, and I want to talk.
Wait, hold on. Before you shift back, that is so beautiful and magical. My experience is very similar. I found myself to be a giver. I love to give, pour myself into people. My wife too. I mean, it's fascinating. She and my daughter, through volunteer work they do, volunteer at Ronald McDonald House. And here we are, so accustomed to giving and giving back and pouring ourselves into people because of all the blessings that have been bestowed on us, and how hard it was initially to be on the other side of that receiving line, walking up at the Ronald McDonald House with a tray for food that is provided for us, and to receive. And
it's humbling. It's hard.
The story that your buddy shared, I don't even want to repeat it, because what he said is it's so magical and spot on. And it unlocks that flow for both of us, where now there's that true energy of giving and receiving, and that balance is, if you want to get hippy dippy, that yin and yang, if you will, is critical. And our hearts must remain open to receiving, because it's a multiplier effect on our ability to give. And now we can give back the experience.
Yes. And that's another silver lining too. Like, how do I unlock from being a receiver of the energy to someone saying, no, you're a giver, and recognizing I'm a giver, and how do I give that back? And it made me so much more self-aware of what my other friends are going through and how to show up for them. And not just the ones that showed up for me. I don't give a shit if you showed up for me or not. I'm going to give it to you because I feel it as a receiver that you need it. And now I know that I'm nuclear energy reactor because of what I went through and what I had inside of me that needed to be unlocked for my own journey. And the fact that you and your family are able to take this grief and repurpose it for positive energy is your legacy. It's what you guys are doing. And that's just like, if there's any solace in this, if there's any moments of like, you know, a positive coming out from a negative, this is one of them for sure.
It's the biggest one. And, you know, we were really blessed during these 9 weeks, friends pouring themselves into us and offering different gifts and opportunities. We were introduced to no less than 3 mediums, right? And so we didn't necessarily ever have to think about these things before, but since they were given to us, there was a real opportunity and to connect and with, to understand from and be led by Anthony through this process. And you know, he had decided, and he was aware of his suicidal ideation and this 2-year journey we went through together. His plan for his senior year was to do his project on suicide. And he said, you know, we must use the word, we must break free of that stigma. And, you know, each day in the hospital on his phone, a reminder would go off every morning at 8, volunteer for suicide awareness. So the reason I share all this is the moment was bigger, and it took this initiation and how we're being led by him to create this legacy. And it was, you know, everyone may have different beliefs or stuff, but we connected with him. And what he shared with us, he said, Mom and Dad, I understand this is a tremendous amount of pain for you both, but you're both strong enough for this, and lives are at stake. And we've just felt that pull, that energy from him, from our higher source, and from the community. I mean, resilience is communal.
Yeah.
And
100%.
we're just, it's as if we've got this table of puzzle pieces in front of us, and we're like, okay, this one goes here and this one goes here. And then it's like, well, where does this one go? And then someone or something comes from wherever it is within 48 hours and answers that question. And that's the power of this energy that we're talking about. And it's available to all of us. Some have been conditioned over a lifetime in different ways. I've come to realize that potentially the last 20 years I've been training for this. So I'm so glad and grateful that my capacity for joy and love and experience still exists. Amen. And is available to me.
Amen to all that. And as you're saying this, I'm thinking about, you know, when I got my diagnosis, I was thinking about how I wanted to show up as a father. How am I going to use this as a learning example for my kids? And listen, I have a 13-year-old. She knew what the hell was going on. And Daddy loses his hair and is going through treatment, and I got a port in me, and I lost my hair, and I'm changing, and I look different. She knew what was going on. And we never use a C word. We never use a cancer word, but she knew it was going. She's 13. She's not stupid. My little guy, he was 6 at the time, now 7, 6'7". There's a shout out to him. He didn't know, but he knew Daddy was sick, quote unquote. And I said my blood was sick. And I thought about it. How do I make this a learning experience? And I empowered him to be my healing orb. And every day, before school or on the weekends, whatever, before he left, whatever, he would grab me, he would rub my head, he would give me the powers I need before treatment. And like, you think about how you want to show up for them. How do you want to teach them? How do you want to not sugarcoat it, you not hide it from them, but how do you make this a powerful parental experience? And there's no way I could have had this mindset when my daughter was younger. There's no way. These are things, you know, you learn along the way how you want to show up. And I'm blessed that my incredible wife was so supportive and by my side, and we had this tribe around us, and that empowers you. That empowers you to be better. And for me, I felt like it unlocked superpowers. What superpower do you think you have now?
I think the two most important, the two two or three. I mean, one is really what you just shared there is real true resilience through the understanding that resilience is communal, right? We can take ourselves so far through, grit, effort, self-determination, internal resilience, if you will. But true resilience is what you just shared there. Each morning, I would interact with my son and he gave me the power. My wife stood by me. My tribe was there for me. It's that magic. So I think resilience is a gift, a beauty from this, and understanding that, again, that resilience is communal. And I can actually, like right now, feel our heartstrings attached, and all of the listeners and all of the people that have helped you and me on our journeys. It's an energy thing, and we truly can't do it alone. We're designed to be here together in love. And then the other superpower is vulnerability.
Let's get into it. Let's get that.
I've misunderstood why I've been so emotional in my lifetime, and how I connect with humans in such a deep way. But it's for us as men to truly let go of this myth that we need to show up in a certain way, and potentially even that vulnerability isn't masculine. There's so much going around: toxic masculinity, toxic femininity, this, that. Like, true masculinity is raw and real. It's vulnerable, and it's so tremendously important. There's so much work that I've been pulled into on social media and with the show, and it seems a lot of time the women will comment in public, but it's the men that are DMing and like, oh my gosh, this is changing my life. Please keep doing, what you're doing. So I see vulnerability, and especially young men, I see vulnerability as, a true superpower.
I've had a couple of other men on the show. Angus Rittenberg, who British gentleman, world record holder, solo team sailing across multiple oceans, multiple continents, almost took his own life. Anton Newtonblum, Dutch soldier, has walked across almost all of Australia, walked across the entire United States barefoot, raising causes for men's mental awareness. Incredibly important cause to me, for me to share my platform with. And the common theme that we talked about on both shows was men, toxic masculinity, breaking down those walls and being vulnerable. I'm lucky. I'm an emotional guy. I wear my heart on my sleeve. I'm a tearjerker. I'm a crybaby. I said a freaking Coldplay song will make me cry. If I hear "Fix You," I'm done. Waterworks. It's over. But so many men, so many cultures across the world, especially here in the United States, it's a sign of weakness. I'm telling everybody listening, it is not. It's a sign of strength. It's a sign of strength that you could share how you feel. It doesn't make you less of a man, less of a partner, less of a father. In fact, it's the opposite. It shows that you could be emotional and share. And those moments when you're going through shit, other people could see you and help you. And if not, you're going to keep it all inside. And that's when things go south.
So well said. And that opening up that creates that communal aspect for resilience and growth and healing. But my hallucination, though, is that, potentially, and again, I don't know specifically for you and I, but my hallucination is that so much of it for us men has been conditioned through generational experiences, and that's how we were brought up, so much so that it's part of our physiology. And I know that it was a powerful experience, because I feel like when I was young, my dad was more that way, but to see him evolve over the years, and then to see, I just was fortunate to work in these places and to have mentors and examples, not just Tony Robbins, but another man that no one knows about, Steve Lashansky, who mentored me for a decade and a half, the modeling of vulnerability. And I think that's the work that you're doing and demonstrating through your show. That's the work that I'm doing. And we can model that for men, because I don't even think they're aware of it. And it was, some are, some aren't. Maybe
Right.
it's not that easy to generalize, but I'm not certain it's just a decision. It starts with a decision,
Right.
but we need models. We need folks like you and I and others to come out of the DMs and have this be a real thing, so that we can unlock that communal superpower.
If I could do one thing with my show, if I could reach one person, if I could change one thing, that's all worth it. It's all worth the time and the effort and the energy. So let's turn the page on this chapter of the conversation and talk about how you've harnessed to move it forward and honor your son's legacy. So Endurant wasn't built as a brand, and it emerged as a response, right? So when did you and Samara realize that this needed to become a movement and not just a memorial? Or was it always a movement and not a memorial?
No, it's just as you've said. I mean, initially it was a memorial, but the first seeds were planted in the hospital between my daughter and Anthony's best friend. And they had suggested, or they were talking like, hey, we should have mental health clubs at our high school. There's no focus on mental health. It's all on performance and grades and physical health, physical education. There's no ME, mental education. Mm-hmm. And Belina came up with the idea Endurant. And so Anthony's nickname was Ant. And Endurant means capable of overcoming extreme adversity or hardship. And so those were the early seeds. Let's see, we could do a club on at Anthony's high school. We could do a club at Belina's high school, see what would unfold in the community. But the real big piece was, and I'll try and make this story concise, is a few weeks after all of this, somebody reached out to me on Facebook that I actually thought was someone else. They had the same name. This woman had been following me for a number of years, and she reached out. She said, hey, I've watched your son grow up on Facebook with you and your family, and I'm curious if you'd be willing to get on a call with me. And she got on a call with us and shared that, Anthony was diagnosed with high functioning autism. And what she shared with us blew our mind. She said that children with this diagnosis between the ages of 12 and 18 are nearly 30%, it's like 29.4% more likely to take their own lives. My wife and I were never aware of this. And she shared that a bunch of work that's being done in the UK to act on this awareness. And we, in that moment, felt this moral obligation that we had to do something. We had to close that gap, if you will. We had to bring awareness to this. So it started out potentially initially as a mission, maybe something we do on the side. And then we started having events with teens in the community, 300 teens, 50 teens. And what they were sharing with us and imploring us to help them with was, it's not just neurodiversity. They're struggling in high school. They're struggling in school. We as parents and as school districts aren't helping them become well-rounded, well-being people. We're just helping them get to college to achieve. Would we be willing to open it up to inclusion, body shaming, all the topics? One young man said, I grew up in a house where it's, not okay to cry. And that's when it moved from like this mission or memorial to something that was going to be bigger, our life's calling. We got an initial $50,000 donation from somebody who was there and saw these teens interacting this way. And he said, I know you guys don't have a plan or a format, but my foundation and I are betting on you and your wife to solve this. And when those teens shared with us what they needed was not more PowerPoint presentations about suicide, not more experts coming in and leading. What they needed was us to help them set up safe communities where they could interact with each other about the things that mattered most, and that the parents would help and listen. And then we had just launched our Endurant YouTube show. and they had suggested that they should be on the show and they should lead the show. And that was like, duh, of course. So every few weeks in this studio that I'm sitting in, that was generously donated and is in our garage, teens come and shoot episodes amongst each other about the topics that matter most. And it's transforming lives. We're building out these communities, and parents are now starting to understand from their children's voices how to help them, as opposed to our thinking about what we think they should do. And I'll just share with you, in 9 months, the impact has been extraordinary. Our mantra, if you will, is awareness is the cure. USA Today found us early on and did a feature at the end of last year. Los Angeles Times found us. They got a grant from the University of Southern California to study this gap, and they did a feature, a front page feature and a video feature. And we went from every few weeks a family reaching out to every few days a family reaching out and sharing. Anthony's story reminds me of my daughter. She's attempted twice. We're going to get her help now, or we're going to approach it in this way now. Anthony's story reminds me of our son. We've been debating whether we should get him diagnosed. We're going to. And we got, at the end of the year, a 6-figure anonymous donation. So this nonprofit, the Endurant Movement nonprofit, is inevitable. Its impact, the time and confluence of what's happening in the world, this is so needed right now, that this is what my wife and I do now.
It's so important for everyone out there to understand that the focus of Endurant is not just awareness or resources, plenty of organizations, but harnessing the organic stories that came out of this, the art of storytelling, and the focus on community. And I deeply, deeply, I see that. I see that from the conversation, why it's different, how it's different. Of course, all those other foundations and causes are critically important, but I'm saying you found the niche built on discovery of what your community has said they need, want to provide. And that is so freaking powerful. Like, as you're saying that, these words are just coming into my head. I'm like, no, it's a reframe, right? And I want to talk about another reframe here. And like, endurance is not just survival, but it's sacred transformation. How does that reframe from endurance, not as survival, but as sacred transformation? How does that reframe change the way people relate to their pain?
Oh my gosh, that is so powerful. I'm so glad you shared that with me. We're going to borrow it because that's what's really actually happening. It is sacred transformation. It is through storytelling that lives are being saved. And I think I just love sacred transformation for Endurant. That
one's free.
Thank you. It's so powerful because the world is so upside down and volatile right now. But this sacred transformation is so critical, and I'm not sure exactly how to answer because I'm blown away how succinctly that you put it. But what
it said,
But what I can tell you is, I think the most profound thing is that. And we talk about children are our future. Children are our future. Like, this generation of teens right now are our now. The generation before them understood kindness, inclusivity, caring, but this generation is about action.
Yeah.
And they are connected and wired in such a way that all we have to do is follow them. We had this idea of a fundraiser at the end of the year. Called it Miles and Smiles. We spent a lot of time strategizing and putting together all these things. And what we didn't realize, it was great idea, wrong time. End of year, people are focused on Thanksgiving, holidays, And so we were going into this high school, and my wife and I were prepared to share the news with them that we're sorry, it seems like maybe the timing isn't right for this. We're going to look at doing it in the spring. And they're like, no. Look, and they had this whiteboard of of an event that they were going to run through the quad, and they were going to raise money, and they were going to have these different stations, painting rocks, signs that you could create because finals were in the coming week. And it was magic. They put it on, they raised money, local media came. And so I don't know if this is really actually answering your question, only in so much as whatever is happening here is sacred. It is being led, whether we want to call it spiritually or divinely, but these kids are so aware of our connection, heartfelt, soul-felt connection with each other. It could only be described as sacred transformation.
I love it. Could you go a few minutes longer here?
I sure can. Time is
just checking. So
yeah.
What does enduring with love look like on those hard days when the strength is just, your tank is empty?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's probably the hardest part for me, because when my tank is empty, my mind wants to go back to the old me, perform, persevere, push. And so I'd say still that's my natural reaction. But when I can realize, like, hey, I need to take a step back, and I need to give space. So for me personally, the biggest distinction for how I show up is, am I doing or am I being? And it's amazing. Doing is effort, and for me, it's easier because I'm wired for it. Being, sitting is harder. So what it looks like is saying, hey, I need to stop. It may be as simple as taking my shoes off and go standing in the grass. It may be
grounded,
going down to the beach and sticking my feet in the sand. But what I'm actually doing is creating more space and more possibility for things to come in. So I'm creating more space in my schedule, in my head, because what I've come to realize is the greatest things that are happening with the Endurant movement, in my marriage, with my family, in my life, are happening when I let go and I be far greater than what I could do or create. And that's hard for me because in my previous life, I did and created a lot. So I think it's acceptance, it's grace, and it's the need to say, hey, I have to sit with this now, not push through.
Oh, love that. So you advocate openly, obviously, for mental health, suicide awareness, neurodiversity. When do you think, what do you think society misunderstands most about these conversations? What are we missing here?
That's a great question, Adam. So I think it really comes back to what Anthony was sharing, is that the stigma associated with the word suicide. I mean, even with this show, there's a potential it's going to get throttled a little bit because we're using that word. But unless and until we shine a light on that word, and teens are saying as much as well, is that it's not going to change. And what I've also come to realize too is, no one's really thinking about it until you're faced with it. And so, and even for myself, being faced with it and knowing this was so real, and that being my most important priority, it was like it seemed impossible that it could happen.
Right.
So it was yeah. I mean, it was shocking, but not a surprise. But so the point being is, like, as we started out early on in Endurant to try and help these kids, we put a lot of energy and funds into going into the schools. But what we found was the schools were so resistant. There's liability. If we talk about mental health and suicide, it's going to create suicide.
Slips from the parents, like all this other nonsense.
Right. When we had events and about mental health for adults, dozen or so people will come. When we had the same event with teens, 50, 100, 300 will come. So I think for us as parents in our generations to understand it may not be happening to you. This is a very, very real thing. And your child may not be struggling with whether or not they want to be here, but they're struggling with something. There's a great organization out there called Same Here Global. Eric Hewson.
That's my buddy. He's from my town. I know Eric.
Oh, you know Eric?
Of course I do. He was an early guest. I know Eric very well. Yes.
Oh, if you haven't interviewed him, you should interview him.
Eric's great. He's one of my first guests. I know Eric. Yes.
Okay. All right. So, well, yeah, he's been a huge mentor to me. Another New York guy. I'm so grateful.
Small circle, man. Everything's meant to be reason, dude.
Right. So that whole 2 and 5, right? It's not 2 and 5. Every one of us are facing mental health challenges. And so we need to, in the same way we need to embrace vulnerability, is we need to embrace the truth. And while we may not be going through it right now, we have something to give to someone who is. And then it's that peace. And so letting go of the fear and stepping into faith that we are all connected in the most meaningful way that transcends religion.
Yep.
And that our only job here on this planet is to love and be loved. And if we can let go of all the tactics and strategies to figure out whatever and just come from that place of love and connection, we could transcend this, because it's an epidemic. I mean, losing children in this way, it's the second leading cause of death for children, second only to car accidents, is unacceptable. We think about that, it makes us cry, and many of us don't know what to do, so we stay paralyzed. But if we just love one another, that's a start.
I got to ask the hardest question and the most important question I'm going to ask here. What are those signals and signs that parents out there have to look for? Let's. What do they have to do? What do they have to look for? What the fuck do we need to do to stop this?
So, my man, this is the hardest question out there, and I don't know that I have the answer, because even something like prevention, we have to stay focused on it, because lives are at stake. They are at stake. But what I could also share through my own personal experience is that in some cases it may not be preventable. And for those of us that have lost children in this way, and the fraction of us that have this understanding is really profound and cathartic, but also frustrating. You know, the signs, we have the signs, we saw the signs, we did the things, and we weren't able to prevent. So the only thing at this place and state that I could share with parents is you must take it seriously, and it and even in our case, taking it gravely seriously as we did, because there was a point where we were able to communicate and discuss it with Anthony. We still couldn't do enough. So outside of like the immediacy of signs and the crisis, I'm not the best person for that, because I'm still struggling through it. But what I do know is helping kids feel like they belong, and more importantly than belonging is finding their tribe, finding their superheroes. Many kids with Anthony's diagnosis have difficulty making friends, are often bullied. That's the majority of my experience of meeting parents now who have lost. In Anthony's case, it was different. He was blessed with an overwhelming number of friends, but he masked to fit in. He masked to be normal. You know, we did him a disservice in using the term ASD, autism spectrum disorder, right? So if you're enforcing disorder, then something's wrong, and I need to do other things to be normal. So it's helping these children feel belong, help them find their superheroes, right? So ours might be, Keith Hernandez, or, Ron Darling, great people, some Mets heroes. But for the neurodivergent, it might be, Elon Musk. And when kids and humans feel like they belong, that's true prevention. when we're in that crisis mode, I'm not so sure. And these are the hardest calls and questions for me week in and week out.
First of all, everyone out there listening, hanging with us, thank you. Thank you. This has been the deepest, hardest conversation that I've had in 7 years, arguably the most important. Neal, if Anthony's light could speak to someone listening right now who feels lost, unseen, exhausted, what hope do you want them to hear right now through his light?
It's I could just feel him coming through me, and it's that you matter, and to know that, and to know that you're loved, and that there's a reason you're here, is to bring love and to share love, and that you matter. You matter. These are moments that you're struggling with. You go find someone, a parent, a friend, but that you really truly matter.
And for anyone who's walking through grief today, like you and your family are, what's that one gentle truth that you want to offer to them? Not as advice, but as companionship.
It's that you are loved. Please remember that you are loved, and grief it's hard. It's so hard. And if you can open your heart, if it's not open, if your heart is open, to keep it open, because the opposite of grief is love, and that there is a community that wants to pour themselves into you. And the grief that you're feeling, that pain is because of the love you felt. And the amount and intensity of the grief you're feeling is in direct correlation to the amount of love that you felt. And now you've just got to find a new place to put it, and that is into others, because the other side is suffering. And in suffering, you're stuck. You're not able to unlock, I know we don't like the word, but the silver linings. You're not able to unlock the beauty that's possible from this indoctrination, from this challenge that you're facing.
Everyone let that sink in for a moment here. All right, let's bring it home. I've asked this final closer a lot. It's the core of the show. It's the ethos of the show. It's the ethos who I am. It's everything to me, and I need to know what's everything to you. Neal, in these darkest moments what you and your family have had to go through, and facing such unimaginable pain, tragedy that no one could even imagine. No one wish it upon their worst enemy. But you need to stay focused. You need to keep your eye on the prize. You need to be there for those that are still with you today. Neal, what is your beacon? What is your compass? What is your North Star in life?
I mean, simply, it is love. If this whole experience and this journey over the last 18, 19 months has shown me anything, it starts and ends with love. And my soul's mission here is to shed love and light. And it transcends everything. It's greater than any single relationship. It's greater than my family. It's a universal truth, which quite frankly is needed now more than anything in these times. We're human beings. We're beings that are connected in love and light, but we're here having a human experience, and somehow we've lost love. Love is the only thing deep down inside, if you're really true to yourself, is the thing we can all agree on. We might not all want to love this person or that thing, but we all would want to receive love and feel love.
Give it.
And so that's the biggest thing for me.
Love is the answer. Community, faith, vulnerability. And first and foremost, I deeply, deeply from the bottom of my heart, thank you for your vulnerability and sharing your story and honoring Anthony's legacy and how you guys are paying it forward. And I know, and you know, and everyone knows that he's looking down on above and just proud that you guys are turning such a tragedy into such a good cause and helping. If you could help one other person, one other parent, one other family, that's the power. That's the power of love. That's the power of paying it forward. And I wish you and your family all the strength that you need now and forever. I want to thank you so much for doing the right thing and honoring him. And thank you for joining us today. Everyone, if you want to learn more, check out the Endurant Movement, endurantmovement.org. We're going to link it up in the show notes here. You can connect with Neal on LinkedIn. Where else could folks find you? Where could they connect? Where could they learn more?
Yeah, LinkedIn is a powerful place on any of the social media, endurantmovement.org. And we'd be grateful if this has resonated with you to watch the Endurant Show on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts, especially those teen episodes. And Adam, I want to thank you. All the things that you've shared, love is the word, but the expression of love is vulnerability, caring, resilience, empathy, grace. This time we've spent together, I can't see, I don't know what time it is. It seems like it's been 10 minutes, probably even much more, is a true expression of love. And what you are doing here with this podcast is that love. Without questions, lives have been impacted by what you're doing and what we've done here today. And I'm grateful to have been invited to participate in this spreading of love with you.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Everyone out there, if this show meant something to you, sharing means caring, especially this show. Thank you for sticking with me. 7 years. We're not stopping this party. We're going to keep it going. This is what this show is all about. Sharing incredible stories like Neal and his family, honoring Anthony's legacy. That's what it's all about. Remember, be good to yourself, be better to others, and catch us next week for another good episode of the podcast. Take care, everybody.